Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission meeting. I'm taking it as a cue from the CityLink Studios folks that I need to talk a little louder based on our introduction. That was quite the high fidelity blowout, so I'll do my best to project ongoing. A couple quick reminders. As it was mentioned in that introduction, please silence your electronic devices at this time. And also, we look forward to hearing everyone tonight who wishes to be heard. And if you do choose to come forward and present to ask questions, otherwise present to us, please limit your comments to 5 minutes and only present new items during that time that haven't already been discussed. So with that, we'll go ahead and get rolling with the reading of our consent agenda. Denise.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item 1A is approval of the Planning Commission briefing on October 4th, 2022. Item 1B, Planning Commission meeting on October 5th, 2022. Item 2A, petition rezone 017281, 2022, rezoning from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the CN Conservation District located north of East 33rd Street and west of South Canyon Avenue. Item 2B, petition rezone 017282, 2022, rezoning from the RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District located at 4705 West Botel Place. Item 2C, petition rezone 017285, 2022, rezone from the RS Single Family RD1 Twin Home RA2 Apartment Office and the C2 Community District to the RA1 Apartment, RA3 Apartment Live Work Office and C2 Community District located south of East Madison Street and west of Veterans Parkway. Item 2D, petition rezone 017305, 2022, rezoning from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the O Office District located at 1200 East 77th Street. Item 2E, petition conditional use 017261, 2022, conditional use permit for an on-sale alcoholic beverage establishment within 500 feet of a sensitive land use located at 3601 South Minnesota Avenue. Item 3, consent agenda approval.
Very good. Thank you, Denise. At this point, I do believe we have a recusal.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this time I just wanted to announce I've got to recuse myself on item 2B on the consent agenda, so I will hop out for all the consent agenda items.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Nybert. At this point, are there any members on the commission that would like to see any of the consent agenda items that were read moved to the regular agenda for further discussion? City staff, are there any items that were brought up to your attention that should be moved to the regular agenda? Seeing none. Are there any members here in the audience that would like to have any of the items that were noted on the consent agenda moved to the regular agenda for further consideration? Seeing none. At this point, I will look for commissioner action on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, same sign. The consent agenda has been approved. So at this point, any members of the audience who were here for any consent agenda items, you are free to go at this time, but welcome to stay if you wish. Give Commissioner Nyberg a brief moment to rejoin us here. Thank you, sir. At this point, I would look to commissioner action for approval of the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the regular agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Urban. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of the regular agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, same sign. Regular agenda has been approved. Denise?
Item 5A, petition conditional use 017246, 2022, conditional use permit for an on-sale alcoholic beverage establishment within 500 feet of a sensitive land use located at 7601 South Louise Avenue.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Jason Bieber with Planning and Development Services. This application was actually, the applicant held a neighborhood meeting last Thursday just north of this site. We had quite a few neighbors in attendance, probably 15 or so. They worked through some options with the neighborhood and really kind of compromised with them and thought maybe that this should get deferred a month. And then they're going to change their request from an on-sale alcoholic beverage establishment to a full-service restaurant, and then go out and probably get it to the neighborhood association again with their actual floor plan. So they are requesting to defer this to December 7th to give them a little more time to change the request.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Commissioners, any other comments for Jason on this one? I will look for commissioner action then to sponsor a deferral on this.
Mr. Chair, I move to defer to next month's meeting on December
7th.
7th. Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to defer item 2A to the December 7th meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, same sign. Item 2A has been deferred.
Item 5B, petition Minnesota Avenue Corridor Land Use Report.
Good evening, Fletcher Lakehawk, Urban Planner, Department of Planning and Development Services. I'm presenting the Minnesota Avenue Corridor Report for Phase 1. This is going to be a 4-phased project. Our goal is to, as Minnesota Avenue is redeveloping, we're looking to provide policy guidance for Planning Commission and City Council when it comes to land use decisions in a corridor. So the question is, what is a corridor? It is a roadway and the adjacent land uses. So the corridor in this case for Phase 1 is Minnesota Avenue from Russell Street south to 3rd Street. And what we did is we did an issues and opportunities, threats and strengths analysis, looked at what the Public Works Department is proposing for reconstruction in the area, created an influence area map, and then reached out to the neighborhood to get input on potential redevelopment in the area. So one of the things we created with this is an influence area map. What it provides is a visual of where we expect to see redevelopment, transition, and maintenance areas. And up there is where they are defined, with redevelopment being really mixed-use, commercial, high-density redevelopment should it happen. Now, this isn't to say that it is going to happen, but these are the areas where we would expect to see that based on our analysis. So one of the things we've looked at is, especially along Minnesota Avenue, there are a lot of single-family homes, and we expect to see along that corridor, which is an arterial with a lot of approaches and high speeds, that you would get those single-family homes removed at some point, or it would be possible if someone wanted to consolidate land and do that. As I said, Minnesota Avenue, it's a unique corridor. It stretches from the north of the airport south to the edge of the city and beyond to Harrisburg. It splits the city in half, east and west, and is unique for how it provides access to the airport, to parks, to schools, to neighborhoods, and really is a central corridor in the city. And the reconstruction done by being proposed and completed now by Public Works Department is really going to provide an identity and aesthetic for the corridor, and we're hoping to be able to influence some of the redevelopment that happens in that area. As I said, we've done a lot of public input. This is another time where we're reaching out to the public to get to at least explain it to the public what we've been doing. This whole process started with a survey which was sent out to get some initial input. We had an open house where we did a visual preference survey, which is what you see there. One of the interesting things we learned from that visual preference survey is that the neighborhood wants to see really taller buildings and higher density development if it is going to happen. We created an initial draft of the report and posted it online, and again sent out a survey or at least a questionnaire to the neighborhood to get their additional input on the draft. And so we'll be at this planning commission meeting and hopefully at city council in December. So some of the issues and opportunities that were identified, it's what we have already in the toolbox, which is promoting land use transitions and neighborhood conservation areas. What we really want to see along Minnesota Avenue is where there is transit is a reduction in parking. We've got bike routes on either side of Minnesota Avenue. Part of what Public Works is doing with their reconstruction is widening the sidewalks, getting rid of some on-street parking. So those are great things that are happening. When we went back and looked at the map, those influence areas, kind of looking at where there are going to be signalized intersections and potential for full access movements, because what's going to happen with the reconstruction and what is already happening in phase one is they're putting a median in, which is going to reduce the number of left-hand turns and thus some access to individual properties, which will be less likely to be redeveloped as commercial. We also looked at it and said we need to maintain the existing housing in the area that is in good shape and invest in that. And so one of the recommendations of the study is that a housing study be done to ensure that we're identifying where we should be investing money in housing. But it is some affordable housing in the city. We're really promoting alternative transportation, taking advantage of the fact that Minnesota Avenue is a transit corridor and that we have bicycle and facilities, and we'll be getting wider sidewalks and mid-block crossings, which will be protected by the medians. And again, just really making sure we get input from stakeholders throughout this process. So one of the open houses we had, or the open house we had, we did invite developers to that just to get their input, make them aware of what's going on. So taking a look at what Public Works Department is proposing and what they've started building, this is really going to create an identity for Minnesota Avenue, and really, it's an opportunity. We're investing in the infrastructure. So what we want to see with that investment in infrastructure is higher density development in the core of the city. So that's what we're really promoting here. And then taking a look at, a lot of toolbox things that you guys look at as you're making land use decisions in this corridor. It's the zoning compatibility chart. It's looking at the future land use plan. It's looking at the zoning ordinance. And we do have some proposals for changes to the zoning ordinance, such as either a revision to existing zoning forms or a new zoning form which would promote mixed use development in corridors like the Minnesota Avenue corridor. And then the takeaway from this is a 2-pager, hopefully, where and we'll see this in future phases of Minnesota Avenue review, where you get a map showing the redevelopment area, high density, mixed use, commercial, transition area, which is higher density residential, and then the maintenance area, which will be that low density residential. And, and then the second page will be a list of recommendations. In the maintenance area, it's allowing for attached ADUs potentially, and not just detached accessory dwelling units. In the transition area, it's really allowing more height as much as we can, while also taking into account that there's the airport overlay So getting as much as we can, but taking that into account. And again, in the redevelopment area, more high-density, mixed-use development with, you know, less parking, maybe bring those buildings closer to the street. And, you know, what we're hoping is that this investment by the city in public infrastructure will also drive some redevelopment in the area. So with that, I'll take any questions if you have any.
Commissioners, any questions for Fletcher?
No questions here, Fletcher. I'd just like to say nice work on the report, and I think it's evident when we drive down Minnesota Avenue, we see certain pockets that definitely need redevelopment. And we're doing a great job of redeveloping our downtown. There's so much focus on it right now, there really always is, and there should be. But there's those pockets that lie just outside of downtown, and a lot of them are on Minnesota Avenue that look a little bit tired. And there's obviously only so many things that the city can do to incentivize redevelopment of those, and I think some of these things in here certainly go a long way in helping developers to improve some of those areas of Minnesota Avenue. In particular, I look at the redevelopment area and the transition area and getting some high density and apartments up on Minnesota Avenue, I think is really, really important and something that'll be good for Sioux Falls. So nice work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I also like the report, thank you, and I note that it'll be a huge benefit to the city as people come to approach our downtown and get to drive through this beautiful new area with a boulevard coming from the airport. And that's always been a big concern of mine as people come in. Maybe not the best first impression, but we're definitely moving that direction, so kudos.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a comment and say I appreciate your engagement of the community and the neighborhood and asking their opinions. I think that was very important in putting this together, so thank you for that.
Thank you. And we have started phase 2 with mailings out to landowners between 3rd Street and the railroad south of 14th Street for our next phase. So we'll hopefully see these moving along a bit quicker in the future now that we have a template of what works. So
Very good. Any additional comments? Excellent. Thank you, Fletcher. Excuse me for that. At this point, Commissioners, I would look for a motion to accept item 5B, the Minnesota Avenue Corridors Land Use Report that was presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of item 5B, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, same sign. Item 5B has been accepted. At this point, we are at the non-agenda item public input period. So if there are any items that were not presented on the agenda that you'd like to come, if anyone in the public would like to come forward and present on, now is your chance. Seeing none, we'll close the floor to public non-agenda item input. Is there any new business? Hearing none, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
We are adjourned. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls.
Fit.